A quiet colleague left a surprising note on my desk at work, and it changed the way I saw myself and my place in the office. I've always been the quiet one in any group, the one whose ideas float into the air and disappear before anyone notices. At my new job, it's even worse. In meetings, I suggest ideas, and they're met with nods at best, or worse, silence. Meanwhile, others get praised for saying almost the same thing. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, the keyboard clicks, and phone rings blur into one, and I feel invisible. Did anyone have thoughts on my proposal? I ask during a discussion about a new project. There's a pause, a couple of murmurs, and then the conversation moves on. I shrink back in my chair, wishing the floor would swallow me whole. Later, as I slump at my desk, trying not to fidget with the pen in my hand, I notice Tom, a colleague from another team, leaning against the doorway. "Hey, I noticed your slides earlier. You might want to bold the main points. It helps the audience follow along," he says quietly, his voice calm and easy. "Thanks. I didn't even think of that," I mutter, surprised that someone actually noticed me. There's a small warmth spreading in my chest, a flicker of hope. The next day, everything seems to unravel. During a client presentation, I mispronounce a name, and a few colleagues chuckle under their breath. My face heats up instantly. I grip the edge of the podium, feeling the coffee scent from the thermos on the side mix with my anxiety. "Are you okay?" Tom leans over, whispering. His eyes are kind, but there's a subtle intensity that makes me aware of every small detail of his presence. The slight curl of his hair, the way his shirt sleeves are rolled up neatly. "Yeah, I'll survive," I manage, trying to sound casual, but my voice falters. That night, I text my best friend, pouring out every humiliating detail. My fingers shake as I type. "I can't believe I messed that up." Everyone laughed. I feel like such a fool. The phone screen glows in the dark, and the act of venting makes me feel a little lighter, though the embarrassment lingers like a shadow. By the end of the week, small gestures from Tom, jokes by the coffee machine, a quiet, "You're doing fine," on a sticky note left at my desk, start to chip away at my anxiety. I feel seen for the first time since starting here. But there's this tension inside me, a flicker of doubt. Am I leaning too much on someone I barely know? Even when we share brief laughs over endless emails or sarcastic eye rolls at office chaos, I can't shake the nagging thought that maybe I'm reading too much into it. Still, a tiny thread of hope grows. Someone noticed me. Someone is on my side. The next few days were a strange mix of relief and tension. On one hand, Tom's small gestures made me feel less alone, almost safe in the chaos of the office. On the other, every laugh, every side glance, made my stomach tighten with suspicion. Was I imagining something? Was he being friendly? Or something more? During a midweek coffee break, I overheard two coworkers whispering near the kitchenette. "I heard Tom's been spending a lot of time with her, you know," one murmured, glancing around nervously. "What? Seriously?" the other replied, voice barely above a whisper. My chest sank. I felt the familiar rush of panic, my mind spinning. Great. Now there are rumors too. I walked past the fridge, pretending to pour water, but every word stuck in my ears. Back at my desk, I fidgeted with my pen. The office buzzed around me. Printer hum, typing, low conversations, but I felt trapped in a bubble of anxiety. My phone buzzed. A message from Tom. "Hey, don't let the small stuff get to you. You're doing better than you think." I stared at it, a mix of warmth and confusion curling inside me. Was this just support, or was there an unspoken layer I wasn't seeing? My fingers hovered over the reply, but I typed nothing. Later, during a team meeting, I caught him smiling at a small joke I made. My heart did an awkward flip. Okay, this is normal, right? Friendly, nothing more. But the doubt lingered, gnawing quietly in the back of my mind. After work, I walked past the glass walls of the conference room and saw him chatting with another colleague, closer than necessary, laughing at something I couldn't hear. A jolt of jealousy surged. I wanted to tell myself to chill, to be rational, but my mind wouldn't let go. I ended up sitting at my desk long after everyone left, replaying the week in my head, analyzing each smile, each word, each gesture. The coffee I kept reheating on my desk had gone cold, but I didn't care. I just wanted to understand what was happening, and I had no idea if I was seeing reality or my fears that I couldn't stop thinking about every interaction with Tom. Every small compliment or joke seemed magnified, twisting itself into something I didn't fully understand. Was it just friendly? Or was there something more subtle I was missing? My mind ran in circles, and sleep became shallow, interrupted by flashbacks of smiles and sideways glances. One afternoon, I accidentally overheard him on a call in the break room. His tone was quiet but warm. "Yeah, I just wanted to check if she's doing okay. She seemed stressed." My chest tightened. Stress support? That's it, right? Platonic. But my thoughts spiraled. Why did it feel so personal? I tried to focus on work, but the anxiety followed me like a shadow. Typing reports, answering emails, it all felt surreal. Every notification pinged like it could be him, checking if I noticed or needed help. My own imagination became a trap. Later, in the office kitchen, he smiled at me again, offering a casual coffee. I hesitated, heart hammering. I accepted, though part of me wondered if I was just giving in to something I shouldn't. The smell of brewing coffee, the clatter of mugs, and the warmth of his presence made the world shrink to that small, tense space that I found myself analyzing every word he said, every inflection, every glance. I started journaling at night, trying to untangle my feelings. Frustration, confusion, tiny sparks of comfort. I couldn't tell which was stronger. By the end of the week, I realized that this wasn't just about him. It was about me, my insecurities, my need to be seen, my struggle to trust my own judgment. And yet, amidst all the anxiety, there was a strange sense of relief. I wasn't completely alone in the chaos. Someone noticed me. Someone cared. But how much of that care was appropriate? That question lingered like a weight I couldn't shake. After days of overthinking, I decided I had to draw a line for my own sanity. I couldn't let every glance, every word, every little gesture throw me into spirals of anxiety anymore. The next time Tom asked if I wanted to grab coffee after work, I hesitated. "Maybe another time," I said, trying to keep my tone casual, though my heart raced like a drum. He nodded, a small smile lingering. "No worries, we'll catch up later," he said, and there was a calm sincerity in his eyes that I hadn't noticed before. Relief flooded me in small, quiet waves. I realized that I could assert boundaries without destroying the fragile sense of trust that had started to build. Over the next few days, I practiced paying attention to my own feelings instead of just his reactions. When a meeting went well, I allowed myself a quiet celebration. When he offered advice or made a joke, I took it for what it was, without overanalyzing. The hum of the office, the chatter, even the clatter of dishes in the kitchen felt less overwhelming. At one point, we had a moment alone in the break room. He asked me softly, "How are you holding up?" And I realized I could answer honestly, without spiraling. "Better, I think," I said, surprising even myself. That small exchange was huge. I felt a shift, subtle but powerful. It wasn't that all doubt had disappeared, but I had started regaining control over my reactions and my anxiety. I wasn't letting the uncertainty define me anymore. By the end of the week, I noticed something I hadn't expected: confidence. Not the loud, show-off kind, but quiet, steady, growing confidence. I was starting to trust myself again, to feel capable, to navigate relationships without being swept away by fear. And Tom, he remained a steady presence, supportive, professional, and respectful. For the first time since starting this job, I felt like I could breathe. The next week felt different. I noticed subtle shifts in myself. I spoke up more confidently in meetings, and for the first time, my ideas were acknowledged without hesitation. The nervous knot in my stomach loosened slightly each day, and I started to reclaim a sense of presence in the office. Tom noticed, too, though he didn't make a big deal of it. One afternoon, he leaned over my desk and said quietly, "You handled that presentation really well. I'm impressed." "Thanks," I replied, trying to sound casual, but I felt a warm pulse of pride. Not just because he noticed, but because I knew I had done well. That recognition wasn't validation from someone else. It was proof to myself that I was capable. Still, the tension of the past weeks lingered. I caught snippets of whispers in the hall, colleagues making jokes I couldn't fully hear. I couldn't ignore the feeling that someone might be misinterpreting my connection with Tom. I didn't want rumors or misunderstandings, so I stayed professional, careful, and mindful of boundaries. One late afternoon, I found myself alone in the break room with him again. We joked about some ridiculous office policy, and I laughed freely for the first time in weeks. The aroma of coffee and the hum of the vending machine made the space feel oddly safe. "You've been handling everything like a pro lately," Tom said, not condescendingly, just sincerely. I smiled, feeling something shift inside me. I realized that part of my anxiety had been self-imposed, the spiral of doubt and imagined scenarios that had eaten at me. By facing it, by setting boundaries and noticing small victories, I had started to reclaim control over my emotions. For the first time, I felt balanced, aware of my vulnerabilities, but also strong enough to manage them. It wasn't perfect, and I knew the lingering uncertainties would return sometimes, but I had the tools to handle them. And, maybe more importantly, I had the quiet reassurance that support could exist without crossing lines, without threatening my independence or self-respect. By midweek, I noticed a real difference in myself. I no longer hesitated to contribute ideas in meetings. When I spoke, my colleagues listened. I could feel the tension in my chest loosening, a quiet reassurance that I was finally being seen. Tom remained a steady presence, never overstepping, always subtle in his support. One afternoon, he slid a notebook across the table with a helpful comment about a project. "You might find this useful," he said casually. I looked up, smiling, and replied, "Thanks, I appreciate it." There was no awkwardness, just professional respect and a hint of camaraderie. It was comforting, and I realized I was starting to enjoy working again. Even so, my mind still played tricks on me. A laugh in the hallway, a glance that lingered a second too long. I'd catch myself analyzing, wondering if I was reading too much into it. But now, unlike before, I could pause, breathe, and remind myself that not everything needed interpretation. One evening, as I packed up my things, I reflected on the past few weeks. The anxiety, the doubt, the awkwardness, they hadn't vanished completely, but I had faced them step by step. I had learned to trust my instincts while also checking myself, to accept support without depending on it, and to recognize my own progress. For the first time, I felt a sense of balance. I could navigate relationships, work challenges, and my own insecurities without being consumed by them. The office, once a place of constant stress, felt manageable, even a little familiar, and though part of me still wondered about every subtle gesture, I realized that I was no longer defined by fear. I had grown stronger, more aware, and finally capable of moving forward with clarity and self-res. That week, something shifted in the office. My confidence wasn't just returning, it was being noticed. Colleagues asked for my input without prompting, and even the manager gave me nods of approval during meetings. It felt strange, almost surreal, to realize I had earned this space through my own effort. Tom remained quietly supportive, but I noticed a subtle difference in our interactions. Small smiles, brief exchanges of understanding, the way he sometimes waited for me to finish a thought before responding. It wasn't flirtation, not exactly. It was a shared rhythm, a professional connection with layers I didn't fully name. During a group project, we ended up working closely. I caught myself laughing freely, without the anxious tightness that had been constant before. The clatter of keyboards and the faint aroma of reheated coffee in the office no longer felt oppressive. They were background, a steady pulse to which I had learned to dance. Later, in the kitchen, I overheard a few co-workers whispering, "She's really coming into her own. And look at Tom. He seems different with her." My stomach fluttered. Not panic, not jealousy, just a strange recognition of the dynamics I hadn't consciously acknowledged before. But I took a deep breath and reminded myself, it wasn't about him. It was about me, about my growth and ability to navigate complicated feelings without losing myself. And yet, every interaction with him now carried a gentle tension, a quiet curiosity, a sense that something unspoken lingered between us. That evening, I sat at my desk, journaling again. My fingers moved quickly, capturing the odd mix of relief, curiosity, and self-awareness. I realized that what terrified me before, the uncertainty, the internal chaos, was now a landscape I could explore rather than fear. I could tolerate ambiguity without it consuming me. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange kind of calm, aware, alert, and capable, yet open to the unpredictability of human connection. Why now? I could feel the shift in myself almost physically. I no longer flinched at casual jokes or side comments. My voice carried a calm authority during meetings, and even when I felt the old pangs of anxiety, I could recognize them, breathe, and move past them. During a collaborative session with Tom, I found myself asserting my ideas confidently. He listened, nodded, and gave constructive feedback without interrupting. "I like the way you structured that," he said quietly, and for the first time, I didn't overanalyze the tone. It was support, professional, genuine, and without hidden layers. Later, I found myself offering advice to a junior colleague who was struggling. The nervous tightness I used to feel when interacting with others was gone. The smell of the office coffee and the faint hum of printers felt normal, grounding. I was no longer just surviving the environment. I was engaging with it, shaping it. Even casual interactions became exercises in confidence. I smiled more naturally, laughed at small jokes without overthinking, and navigated conversations with a sense of calm agency. Tom noticed, of course, but there was no tension, no awkwardness. Just acknowledgement, silent respect, and a shared rhythm that didn't need labeling. That night, I reflected on the week. The difference was staggering. A month ago, I had felt invisible, anxious, and incapable of handling even minor stressors. Now, I was present, aware, and actively shaping my environment and interactions. I had learned to trust my instincts, set boundaries, and accept support without losing myself that IT wasn't perfect. Doubts still crept in occasionally, subtle and fleeting. But I had learned to recognize them, name them, and let them pass. I felt empowered, balanced, and quietly proud of my own growth. For the first time, I could see that the anxiety and chaos of the past weren't signs of weakness. They were markers of a journey I had navigated, step by step, and survived. The days that followed were different in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. I noticed people listening when I spoke, not just out of politeness, but with genuine interest. Colleagues sought my opinion on decisions I would have once shied away from. I no longer felt like an invisible observer in my own life. Tom continued to be a quiet, supportive presence, but the tension that had once gnawed at me was gone. His brief smiles and nods no longer sent my mind spiraling. They were part of the normal rhythm of work. I could acknowledge them without overthinking. One afternoon, a junior teammate made a mistake in a presentation. I found myself stepping in calmly, offering constructive feedback and encouragement. The office hum, the clatter of keyboards, the smell of coffee, it all felt like a stage on which I could move confidently, not a trap to survive. Later, I caught myself laughing freely at a silly office joke, feeling genuinely connected to the people around me. It was a small moment, but it marked a turning point. I was no longer defined by anxiety or self-doubt. Even when I noticed glances or whispered comments from coworkers, I could interpret them without panic. I realized that part of my growth was understanding that not everything required scrutiny, that some things could just be what they were, mundane, inconsequential, or friendly. By the end of the week, I felt a quiet pride. Not the flashy, showy kind of pride, but steady and grounded. I had navigated weeks of uncertainty, anxiety, and self-doubt, and I had emerged stronger, more self-aware, and more capable of handling the complexity of human interaction. For the first time in a long while, I felt at ease with myself, confident enough to engage, to lead, and to simply exist without the constant weight of fear. Why now? I could see the full picture of how far I'd come. The anxiety that had once dominated every interaction had faded into something manageable, almost mundane. I was still human, still capable of doubt, but I had developed the tools to navigate it without being consumed. During a team meeting, I suggested a new approach for a project. My colleagues nodded and engaged thoughtfully with my ideas. I felt a quiet thrill. This wasn't about seeking approval anymore. It was about knowing I could contribute meaningfully and be heard. Tom, as always, remained steady. He made a small, approving comment and moved on. There was no hidden tension, no unspoken expectations. Just a professional, supportive presence that felt safe. That I realized that the growth I had experienced wasn't about him. It wasn't about being noticed or being validated by someone else. It was about me, my ability to trust myself, to set boundaries, and to navigate complexity without losing balance. Later, I walked through the office, noticing small things that had once seemed overwhelming. The buzz of the printers, the chatter of coworkers, even the faint aroma of coffee. Instead of triggering stress, these details grounded me. I was part of the environment now, not separate from it, not afraid of it. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm agency. I had faced my insecurities head on, and while challenges would undoubtedly arise again, I knew I could handle them. I had grown, not just professionally, but personally, learning that confidence, self-respect, and resilience are built one careful step at a time. And in that quiet realization, I felt a rare kind of peace, strong, self-aware, and capable of moving forward without fear.